real-world impact. So you guys being here today are already making a change. Now, before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge our co-host, the Blockchain for Good Alliance, an organization committed to bringing together blockchain foundations, universities, NGOs, and developers to address global challenges using decentralized technology. We're also proud to have Elephant, who are here today as our official SocialFi partner, pioneering Web3 audio sharing solutions to make decentralized technology more accessible. Also, a big thank you as well to all of our co-sponsors, Biosin, a leader in blockchain security, BTSE Group, a global fintech and blockchain company, and Nodo, a Web3 community prediction market platform, as well as Aya, a platform fostering innovative solutions for climate change. Thank you all for your support in making today's event possible. Now, we're all gathered here today, as promised, starting off today's show with a wonderful panel discussion. Now, I'm super excited to introduce our distinguished panelists for today's discussion on how blockchain can be leveraged for social good. Now, before we jump in to introduce our amazing panelists, just a very gentle reminder what you guys can do if later on during the panel discussion to scan this QR code located right here. You guys are able to ask away using the Slido app. And in addition to that, we'll be giving out 7 amazing prizes, such as the Jumbo phone and more, if you guys would love to win prizes just by asking questions. So without further ado, our star-studded lineup panelists for today. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for Abhay, CEO of Helium, a pioneer in decentralized wireless networks, leading the change in providing global connectivity through blockchain. Fantastic. That's the warm round of applause that we should have here. Also, give a roaring round of applause for John Ng, Managing Partner at Signum Capital. Great energy. We love that. And of course, just a background on John, a blockchain investment firm based in Singapore with over a decade of experience. John has played a key role in supporting early stage blockchain startups, particularly in DeFi as well as Web3. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause for Helen Liu, CEO of Bybit. So yes, Helen is the COO of Bybit as well as founder of the Blockchain for Good Alliance, an initiative that unites the blockchain community to address global challenges. And finally, please give a round of applause for the amazing individual who will be moderating this session, Felix, founder of Salad. Good stuff. I love today's crowd. Now, Salad is a Web3 ecosystem based in Singapore, and Felix and his team are dedicated to demonstrating how decentralized technology can solve some of the world's most pressing challenges by creating real-world impact. So with that, I'm thrilled for what promises to be a super thought-provoking conversation this afternoon. So join me in welcoming our panelists as we begin the discussion with a warm round of applause.
Okay, good morning everyone. Thank you, Cheryl, for the introduction. Hi everybody, I'm Felix, the founder of Salad, and today I'll be moderating the panel on harnessing blockchain for global good. So we'll be covering 4 key topics today, each highlighting how blockchain can drive social impact from financial inclusion to global governance. And throughout the discussion, we do encourage you to please ask questions. As Cheryl mentioned, there's a QR code here. And we have 7 gifts sponsored very kindly by Jumbo. So 2 Jumbo phones, as well as SafePal hardware wallets. We've got 5 SafePal hardware wallets as well. Unopened, of course, sealed. So anyone who asks a question that we pick to address in our Q&A session, we'll just give out these prizes also. So we'll have a Q&A session at the end, as I mentioned, where we will address these questions. Now let's proceed to the first topic, where we will start with how blockchain can promote financial inclusion. So millions of people worldwide still lack access to basic financial services, and blockchain offers a way to bridge this gap by lowering barriers and offering decentralized financial tools. I've prepared a few questions, and perhaps the first one for Abhay. We're very curious to know about how does Helium's decentralized network contribute to financial inclusion, especially in underserved areas?
Sure. I'll even give you a little background. So I've been working in fintech before I was working in at Helium. So I was at Square for 6 years. We launched Cash App. It was a Hack Week project that I worked on first, and it became a great peer-to-peer sort of payments platform for the U.S. And expanded to the U.K. eventually. And our idea with Cash App was, how do you bank the underbanked ultimately? And even in the United States, it may be surprising for folks here in Singapore, but there is a long tail of folks who still use things like payday loans to immediately have access to cash from their day-to-day or multiple jobs that they might have in that day. And so one of the things that we did was, how do we get people access to their paycheck faster? We did this on the merchant side first. How do you pay, rather than 4 days after the credit card is swiped, we went down to 3, then 2, then 1, and then eventually next day as an instant payment, or the same day as an instant payment. And this is payment systems in the US are not as advanced as other places in the world, unfortunately. So yeah, this is something that I've been working on for a while. How do you get people access to their own funds sooner? Helium, again, I think of it as a way to solve for the long tail of connectivity problems. There's, I live in San Francisco, and even in San Francisco, which is supposed to be the tech capital of the world, apparently, there are parts of the city that have horrible internet, and it should not be surprising. It's the places of the city that have the sort of poorest population or the sort of least advantaged population. It comes down to ROI for telecom companies. They have to buy real estate, they have to put up towers, they have to manage those towers, they have to provide internet and power to those towers. And there aren't enough customers around for them to make a return on that investment. And so they don't, or they sort of underinvest in those areas, or they don't update the hardware as much. Helium's a little different, where we actually align the incentives more towards the individuals that are actually operating the nodes, and they're not only serving themselves, but they're also serving their neighbors. And so, one person can put up a Helium hotspot on their roof, and they can serve all of their neighbors and all the businesses around, and provide internet for all of them, and provide cell phone service. And it's those little pockets of sort of individuals that are operating these nodes that allow us to offer a $20 a month cell phone plan nationwide with unlimited data. And that's the unlock for us, and that's why we spend a lot of time on this.
Thank you for sharing, Abhay. For John, we have a different question. As an investor, John, how do you think blockchain can help unlock capital, especially in asset-rich but cash-poor areas, and to make financial services more accessible?
So, hi everyone. I'm John. From Signum Capital. Listen? Is that close? Okay. I thought this doesn't work.
Like you're drinking a Coke.
Like you're drinking a Coke?
That's the trick that I got once.
So when I first started, I was a banker in Standard Chartered Bank. And I come from a real estate family, very traditional. And then I've done a lot of them. My first business was 11 years old when I started my first company. And I never stopped. The one thing that irks me a lot, actually, right now, is that I'm 44, so some guys are older and some guys are younger. But when you start owning your own properties, and you go around, let's say in Singapore, and you want a loan, so it's called an equity out, right? So you have a property and you say, if your property is worth 5 mil, or 6 mil, or 10 mil, or 1 mil, you go to a bank, the bank says, yes, your property is 1 mil. And you've already paid out 90% of your loan, or 100% of your loan. The bank wants to see 1 million in cash in your bank account before they can loan you anything. So that doesn't make sense to me, right? They want to see cash before you, and that's why I think crypto can help a lot. So we've come out with this. I've always been talking about this since 2018, I think. I've been in crypto since 2016, but in 2018, when it became more prominent with people, with institutions, and growing, I've thought that why can't people collateralize their properties with another company I don't do it, so with another company or fund. And I say, if I have a property, I come to you, I got my title deed, I say, this is yours, loan me. So I'll give you 70% in USDT or whatever stable coins that is the company offers. They give you that stable coin, you go back to the economy, and you can spend it, go and work it, do what you need to do to make more money, at least you're unlocking property value without having cash in the bank. I think it stifles a lot. I've been to Japan, Hong Kong, and all, and a lot of people own properties. A lot of people in New Zealand own lands like great farmlands. In Kaikoura, I have a friend that owns a big crayfishing plot of land in the sea as well, but no cash. So what he does, he works his whole life to pay. He has 3 boats. He brings tourists in and out catching cray. This guy needs cash. If you gave him like 5 or 10 mil right now, he can expand his business. But he doesn't have the cash in the bank. I think crypto can do that. I can go on and on, but I think we have so like, I know some familiar faces out here. A lot of them are coming over tonight. We have this very long discussion on this. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, John. Helen, I'd like to ask you, how can platforms like Bybit or even BGA provide tools to individuals who are excluded from traditional financial systems, and what's the biggest challenge in doing so?
Yeah, I think I would like to introduce myself a little bit. So I come to the industry without any blockchain background. And I think some people ask me, how did you get into crypto? I think I just get into the industry with the people I want to work with. So then I learn along the way from my job. So today, of course, my role is a COO at Bybit. A little bit background of Bybit. Nowadays, Bybit is a global #2 exchange. And then by this morning, when I was waiting for the start of the meeting, we reached to like 48 million users globally. Yeah. Thank you. So then, back to your question. So why we work on blockchain and why we work on crypto? I think a lot of good points has been shared from the earlier speakers. I think from us, our philosophy or our belief getting into this industry is we believe blockchain actually is providing people privacy, is providing people fairness. So which is something I think from the traditional maybe banking industry you don't easily get. But from blockchain itself, for example, from the of course privacy, I think everyone understands. You own your own wallet. You have your own seed in your own pocket, okay? If you trust centralized exchange, you can also choose to put your money there. And of course, then you can always have your private key with that too. Back to the product itself, so that is a privacy. And then back to the product itself, actually from a crypto exchange like Bybit or whoever, even our competitors, I think we are trying very hard to create a lot of products for the users, something which maybe you were not accessible in the banking industry and traditional industry. So for example, we do have like so-called UTA, which is United Cross-Margin Account. You can have different types of account. You have different, the business to trade. You trade a spot, you trade the futures, you trade the options, you trade something else, and then you have an account here and there. But then when you united all the accounts, actually your collateral will be mutually used as well. It's a common collateral. So it is so much easier. I think get back to the point, no matter it's loan or it's collateral, actually crypto is providing so much more easy solutions. The last not the least, I think just now people approached me about the listing. I think a lot of people from a blockchain are working on their personal listing project. And then from Bybit, actually our belief is also we list the projects which is chosen by the clients. We will not only list the project benefit the platform, bringing us revenue, but whatever the clients or the users from community, some tokens they wanted, then we will list them. So all these are the freedom we are trying to provide via the blockchain technology.
Okay, thank you for sharing that, Helen. The unified trading account is for sure something that's very, very useful to myself personally and the team. And we're listed on Bybit also, so thank you. Anyway, moving on to the next topic. Thank you all for participating in topic number 1. For the next topic, we'll explore how decentralization can be applied to solve social issues. We will look at some case studies and discuss the potential of blockchain to unlock new opportunities for social good beyond just finance. Question for Helen, actually. Through the Blockchain for Good Alliance, the BGA, you have been supporting various projects. Can you share maybe a case study where blockchain was used effectively to drive social good?
Okay, so I would like to give a background of BGA. So this organization actually was founded in this April time in Dubai during the Blockchain Life period. Whoever was in that event, you can recall, we made a public announcement. So it is an independent organization, doesn't belong to anyone or any company. But Bybit put down the first or initial kind of investment into it. So every year, Bybit committed 5 million to this organization. And it is a non-profit association as well. So BGA, in short, we call BGA, it is a Blockchain for Good Alliance. So we have a lot of partners onboarded, and our mission actually is to reward the builders who solve the problems in the real world by leveraging blockchain. And we are looking for projects for the hardworking builders. Okay, and then we want to reward them, we want to give them support. The support we can provide, of course, number one can be the investment. So we do have the fund to invest into the projects. And number two, it will be the brand awareness promotions. Knowing Bybit has already got 48 million users, I think a lot of them will be your big supporters as well if you have project, and Bybit is very happy to leverage our community to promote your projects. Something else we can provide as well. So the project so far we had been very deep working with actually is a project called the ASIC Hub, which is a Mexican project where it is a blockchain app. I think it is like people can deposit on this app and then get a guaranteed interest refund, like 8%. Okay, and then all these deposits can be used as a loan for the coffee bean farmers. So those coffee bean farmers, their yield will be tracked through blockchain. So that is how we are supporting them. The good thing is, it is an organization has a very good record and credit. So we want to find some project is trustworthy. So they have been working in this industry for 6 years. And they have helped a lot of farmers. And then they had the successful track record upon the loan success as well. So with that, we are helping them to be known outside of Mexico. So that is one thing we are doing. Second thing we are doing is in November time, together with Ethereum Foundation, we are hosting one event called Oscar, Blockchain BGA Oscar. So it will be held in Bangkok together with the Ethereum, what is their name? DEPCON. Yeah, so together with that. So if you, by chance, you visit that, you are more than welcome to join our event as well. So where we will invite a lot of maybe contributors, including the founder of this ASIC Hub, and together with a lot of other, I think, founders, and then the builders. We want to reward them. So that is something we want to do. Something else I want to add on, even though it's not a part of the question, I noticed the participants into today's session is not comparable with token 249, which I feel a little bit sad, because I think token attract worldwide people to Singapore for money, for commercial. But only a handful of people is really leveraging blockchain for good. and even nonprofit to solve the real problem. And we are still a minority. But I thank for everyone who come here today. At least today we have 50 people. Maybe next year we can have 5,000 people. Let's build the nonprofit together. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Abhay, beyond financial inclusion, what are some examples of how Helium's decentralized network model could help solve other social issues, such as maybe access to information?
Yeah, I've got two anecdotes I always love talking about here. One is something that from somebody in our community who built, so in Africa there's this sort of constant struggle that farmers have. They are growing livestock. This is what provides for their families and provides for their community. But they're also in areas that have endangered species. Often you have, essentially conflict there, right? That happens, right? You don't want your cow to be eaten by a lion. It's just a very basic thing. And it's not because, these farmers hate lions. It's because they want to protect the cow. Right? It's a very practical and it's a very real thing. And so there's a project in Africa that built a tracking solution that essentially tracks both the livestock and the animals. And because of these very small sensors, very cheap sensors that they're able to deploy and use the Helium network, they're able to track when they're kind of getting too close to each other and send a notification to the farmer, hey, why don't you bring your cows in a little bit so they don't get into that situation where they might have to defend their livestock. Right? And it's just a very practical thing, right? Like the cow in this case, or the livestock in this case, is sort of the center of the economy for this community, right? And that's, just a very, we think, in the sort of developed world, we think that that's is just a basic thing, but this is core to their livelihoods. And I think that's a really, really simple thing that can be created when you have one community member deploying this connectivity solution, and then other community members are able to leverage it, right? The same, I was talking primarily about mobile coverage before, but this is an IoT use case, and this is a very simple, cheap sensor that they're able to deploy very, very rapidly in their communities. So that's one. The other one that I like to talk about, I probably have 50 of these, so we'll stay here. I'll try not to stay here forever. But the other one that I like to talk about is when there's floods in cities, one of the hardest things to manage is, how do you deploy emergency services to the right place at the right time before there's damage done to the properties? It's everything from, buildings getting flooded, parking lots getting flooded, cars getting flooded. These are all just basic things that happen. Last year there's a storm that hit the Iberian Peninsula, and this company there is called Green Metrics. They have, because there's already perfect coverage for Helium IoT there, other community members built this. They built a commercial solution that they were able to offer to the municipality that provided flood detection sensing all across the city, so that during this sort of weather event, they had a dashboard that said, here's a place where the water level is rising. Let's send people with pumps there and clear out these garages or clear out these parking lots or other structures that, if the water level rises over, twice as much, that could start to cause damage, right? This is a proactive solution that emergency services were able to use while they're in the middle of a storm. So yeah, those are two examples. I probably have, as I said, 50 more of them, but I won't bore you with them.
And in all these examples, they were community-built initiatives on top of the Helium network, is it?
That's right. So these are participants that didn't need to interact with each other, right? The person deploying the hotspot and the person using the hotspots, never had to talk to each other. And I think this is the unlock for permissionless networks, right? This is a truly open marketplace that you're creating, and a truly open exchange that you're creating. Not an exchange like Bybit, but a different kind of exchange, right? But it's enabling this through permissionlessness. I think crypto is really good at, two things. One is capital formation, and the other one is sort of coordination without the need for a middleman. And that is any projects that work on these kinds of things, I'm incredibly excited to see, and I'm glad to be working on one of them.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing, Abhay. John, you've mentioned in our many conversations offline mindfulness as part of your philosophy. How does this influence your approach to using blockchain for social good?
So I don't know if anybody follow my tweets at all, but
Sure, what's your Twitter account?
yeah, later I'll put it out. But so I think about two or 3 years ago, I actually do suffer from some mental stuff for the past 20 years, every day, every morning, afternoon, lunch, every day, every hour, every day. But you know, I still work out, I still box, I still Muay Thai, I still do everything that I still do. It's just a little bit more difficult. So maybe just to add on, I think it will be announced soon. So I'm joining the board of communities of is this local organization called SPD, Serving People with Disabilities. I think it's established for the past 40 years already, with the president Taman as our patron. So I'm just doing this as a volunteer. I think it's time for me to like give back after so many years, and it's also good. So, what's the question again? Sorry.
Mindfulness as part of your philosophy.
So mindfulness actually helped me a lot. I didn't know the term mindfulness like at all, zero, you know, until my wife was the one that told me like, you know, you should try this. You should try to count 4 things, right? You can see 5 things. You can 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And yeah, I did. I actually saw a lot of people around the world, you know, and there's no cure. There is no cure. So what I found as a good cure was to help other people. Blockchain or not, I think it's always imperative that if you can do it, you should do it. You know, a lot of people out here, there's a lot of people who are strong. They look great. They wear a nice suit. They walk around, a lot of confidence, but I think sometimes these are the kind of guys that you should ask, are you all right? Are you good? And when I tweeted that, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I had friends who were in big funds as well, right? In the US and in Asia, coming up to me and you know, messaging me and say, hey John, I want to tell you that I suffer from the same thing. And I want to give back. So I don't know how to give back. I want to be honest, if it's money, I've been donating. You can read it, it's on the news, I donate. But how does that create an impact? I don't know. You know, there's a whole chain of things. Like when I started crypto, I had this notion that crypto was good for 2 things, gambling and charity. It's a long time. And I was, you know, I went to NUS, I met Vitalik. And after that, I don't know how we, you know, anyway. And then I learned more about Ethereum and I learned more smart contracts. I'm like, I said, it's good for gambling and charity. It's like 2 things that I could think about, you know, back then. And I think today, nobody really uses it for charity, or nobody uses it for social good. I think this is great. First time hearing it, first time meeting a lot of people in this sector. I think it's still growing. Everything we're doing today, we're still growing. We are a super young industry. Everybody looks young as well, you know. It's great. It's great. But don't forget, we're all going to get old. So within that time frame, everybody's going to do something in their life. Maybe become big, Bybit's huge. I met Feng Zi and everything way back from Mirana. And, you know, they come to my house, we have food and all that, and now Bybit's big. 48 million users. And I think, man, I didn't know that. That's a lot of money, right? And it's good that money is being used for good. It's great. I wish more and more people could do different things. Just a little bit of a percentage of your treasury goes into some. I think we don't live long. We never know. I have good friends during COVID that, you know, adios. They went heaven. And these guys were strong guys. They were in crypto, you know, good friends. I think some of them are in Twitter. You can read about them as well. And they just passed like that. You know, it makes you think a lot about life. And that's why I've changed a lot of things. I used to chase the dollar. I used to keep chasing the money. And now I wear an Apple Watch to chase my health. I don't care about like fancy stuff anymore. I don't care about all those stuff. I really try to help as much as I can. As long as my bandwidth is able to, I try. Other than that, I don't know how else to answer that. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing, John. And yeah, as you rightfully mentioned, we're still very, very early stage. Unfortunately, this is a very boring topic to most people in Web3 and in crypto. But you know, having the support of very large organizations, large foundations, large investors, I'm very sure that we are moving towards the right direction and setting the foundations right, creating the right fundamentals. I think that's the most important thing to do today. Now, moving on, as blockchain solutions grow, scalability and sustainability become critical factors. And in this section, we will dive into what it takes to build blockchain applications that can scale globally and also address critical issues such as poverty and climate change. So John, another question for you is, as an investor in the space, I know you're not super hands-on and involved in picking projects anymore, but with regard to your team, what key factors do they look at or do they look for when deciding which blockchain projects to invest in, especially regarding their potential for growth and for impact? What does your team look out for?
So a lot of change across the years. I think when we were in, I think one of the earliest Decentraland, and I'm still invested in Decentraland with RE, and I mean, that's not the earliest, but with the small earlier ones. And that's how far we go back. And until today, I'm still invested in like what projects they create, like big time studios and stuff like that. And I'm still one of the major investors around with them. And I can go on, in the past, I could talk about today, we invest about 100-ish projects a year. Yeah, so it's like today, I think we invest in 500 over companies. But I don't logo vomit in my website, like, you know what I mean? Like who cares? Like, what the hell, man, I want to scroll down and find about us, right? I'm like, where is about us when there's so many things to see? I'm like, man, I told the guys, like, let's not do it. Team, so that we went back to like the team traction and time, TTTs, right? So when I started Signum, there's only two of us, me and a guy called Ian. I don't know if anybody met Ian before, but he actually worked in my other investment company prior to crypto. Two of us. Now we have like 11 of us. Some guys met YY, some guys met Ash, and maybe Abhay, you know, right? You guys follow him on Twitter maybe. And I look at three things, and I taught them three things. And I think they expanded on that. But I always look at the team, the traction, and the time. What I mean by that, team, as we know, are they serious or not? We talk to them, you know. A lot of people, and like, don't get me wrong, a lot of people, first-time business owner. Any project you do, you're a first-time business. Because if you are, we're in this era where if you can code or you have a brilliant idea in crypto and you just came out of school, you probably can raise quite a fair bit. My time, I couldn't, $1 million was so hard to raise. Now you're talking about like 45, 20 million, 10 million. And then you got to see, you know, one day I invested, I want to tell you this, one day I invested in this guy, I still remember. I won't tell you what his name is. I invested in this guy. 1 year later, and when I invested in him, he was wearing sandals. 1 year later, he came to my home. He's wearing Versace. Top down. No shit. He was like, I was like, this doesn't suit you. What happened? I said, oh, why are you wearing all this stuff? I said, oh, I like it. I was like, in my mind, I start calculating how much money he's spending. As an investor, I wish there was some kind of transparency in that. How much you're getting paid. And we know how recently, on Twitter, a chain, you know, you can see $85 million a year, right? They're paying themselves. I'm not saying that's not good, but I'm saying that when you start a company, you've already completed Series A to F. In crypto, when you fundraise, you raise 50 mil, 40 mil, 10 mil, 30 mil, jumbo, 45 mil. We are invested in jumbo as well. And you already finish your Series A to Series H, and you have not even begun to make profit. So that's the difference between an IPO and a TGE or a token sale. Super big difference is that you got your money first. You call your mom, I made it. Everybody does that. My company is worth $1 billion, right? You go and you see your FDV is 1B, right? First-time company owners, you have to see how they look. If they can't phantom, they don't understand money, I choose to be an advisor and I guide them. I choose to, because I don't want my money to disappear. And I don't put like 100, I put like $1 mil, $2 mil, $3 mil. I don't want that to disappear. I want to work for my money. So we started to reduce, anyway, this is another thing. I started to reduce the amount of investments we make, and we started to focus on people more. Time is about, like, you got DeFi somewhere, now you got talking about AI. You got this is time. And if people are in that narrative, then probably as an investor, we are profit gains. That's probably a nice time to get in. That's probably a nice time for a lot of people to think about ideas. In the past, yes, but now people are smarter. We are more matured in some sense. So we tend to be a bit more skeptical of, oh, I work for Google X, this, X, that. Like, yeah, but they have never done a business before. All of them have never done their own business. A lot of them work for corporations, but they've never done two different things. You can cook, but you're not a good restaurant owner, right? So you got great chefs that die easily, that lose. That's why there's a lot of things. Time, traction, and what? Traction. Traction is how people receive your product. That's as simple as it goes. If your product from reception is something brilliant, and it's always about, so somebody was talking about EKYC, for example. EKYC and all that, 2017, I've invested in those companies and they died. Today, if you start an EKYC company, great. I think people like AI. Yes, I've invested in MIT guys, Stanford in 2017. I have not seen my money gone. My ETH was so cheap in 16, you know, and I put so much ETH. I put so much ETH. I wish I kept the ETH. But that's the way it goes. We choose to be in this space, crypto. And this is what we get. If you're a race car driver, you get hit by a car. Maybe you slam into a wall. Right? If you're an MMA fighter, you get a broken nose. This is what you should expect. If you're in crypto, be prepared to lose some money. But I digress, sorry. 3 things that we look out for. It can change. I think Ash expanded on that in some of his tweets. But these are primarily 3 things that I look for. I have a very good gut feel of people because I've done so much business, bad and good. I kind of know like what should be done. I'm always looking for people who have a smell of things, you know. But I can't always be right. I'm just hoping that sometimes I'm right. That's all that matters. So I digress a lot, but yeah, it's like talking to friends.
Okay, thank you, John. Helen, how can blockchain projects in the space, like those supported by Bybit maybe, scale to reach more people and address broader issues such as climate change or global inequality?
Yeah, I think it will be, usually the quality we are looking for is the mission and the founders. So mainly two criteria means, so the project, firstly we look at the founder themselves. Do they really believe in it? And then do they have the right, maybe the detailed way of working, rather than it's outsourcing a kind of tech team, and then to just get this job done, and then list, and then run away. so that is very important for us. So the quality of the founder, and then if they have multiple founders, we would like to talk to them, and then to see if it shares the same value. So that is number 1. And number 2 is their mission. Means, are they for commercial only, short term, or is long term? So it is also something we care a lot. Bybit as a company, I just now share to some of you. So our office we have an office globally, and all of Bybit employees are required to work from office. So we meet and then we open our office to any clients. Client can come to visit in the office. It's a co-work space provided as well. So client can choose builders, project partners, the founders, or KOLs. They can choose to work from Bybit office. So then they see who is working on the product. It's all genuine. The real person, real product, and we try to break this curse. So crypto is not a scam. Crypto is not about the crime. So crypto is one of the fantastic financial services. So that is something we try to build. So that's why when we list the project and the project we support, it should also be share this mission. It's more long term. You are building this for the industry, not only build it for yourself.
Thank you for sharing, Helen. Abhay, how does Helium ensure that its decentralized network can scale effectively while still maintaining sustainability? What challenges have you faced in doing so?
Yeah, you know, both of you said some things that were really interesting. I specifically like John's comment about like that you're raising an A through an H, basically. I've been lucky. I've worked in startups for since 2006. I've been in San Francisco for that long, and been everything from just an engineer to an operator to a founder through several companies. Have every kind of outcome from having founder issues and having to break up the team to being acqui-hired because we were running out of capital to I was very lucky to be part of an IPO as well, and raised every single round from seed to S1 basically. So like just been lucky to have that experience. And I think ultimately the one thing about companies that are building this space I think should think about is that a fundraise is not a liquidity event, it's a dilution event. Like your valuation, you have to go earn it after you get that money. Like that's the most important thing. And I tell that to a lot of folks in the Helium ecosystem who are building businesses inside of it as well. Like I'm not an investor, like that's not what I do every day. I do small angels here and there because I know of people who are really good and they've done good things and they just need advice to build a business. And that is the most useful thing you can do for a founder, is like show them how to build a business. It's like, how do you turn a home cook into a restaurant chef, right? Like it's a very different business. When I think about building scalable ecosystems, I think the best advice I give to a lot of crypto founders is focus more. Like you have to, and this is just any founder really, it's how do you take all the things that you're doing right now and pick the one thing you should be the best at and forget everything else. And if it falls on the floor, it falls on the floor. It's fine. But if you get that one thing right, that's great. And I'll give you a very Helium example for this. Is when we launched, this is before Solana existed. This was when we had a sense that Ethereum wasn't going to scale for us. It was before the L2 sort of cycle started, and Bitcoin didn't really make sense at the time because putting a Bitcoin miner on a bunch of Raspberry Pi nodes didn't really seem to make any sense. And so we launched our own chain, and it made sense at the time. And we built a consensus layer. We built this entirely from scratch. We didn't have any SDKs. We wrote everything from core consensus to transaction processing to block production to like all the way to the actual functional parts of a wireless network, like negotiating whether or not you can pay for a particular byte of traffic to cross over the network. We built all of that stuff, and I was both technically disappointed. I'm an engineer. I like building like scalable infrastructure. It's fun to write code. I still do, but like. It was a little sad, but I was very, very happy on the day we shut down our L1 and we migrated to Solana. Because what was it? I didn't have to carry a pager anymore for block production. That was really nice. And I could focus on the thing that really mattered, which was building the wireless network. Right? That's why Helium exists. It doesn't exist to like make sure these tokens move from this wallet to this other wallet. That's what Solana's for, or that's what that's what Base is for. That's what all these other networks are for. Let them be really good at that, and just focus on the one thing you're supposed to be really good at. And like, it's a constant process of editing. And one of the best things a founder can do is be a really good editor. Like, take all the things you're doing and find the thing that you should be like really, really spending your time on, and just continue to do that regularly. And it's unfortunately like what happens with companies. It's very easy to like raise a lot of money, build an enormous team, build a huge like whatever, and then it just becomes trying to be gentle about this, becomes bureaucratic, right? Like bureaucracies sort of accrete value towards being a bureaucracy. right? And this is what we see. I live in San Francisco, so this is very easy for me to sort of shit on my own city government. We sort of build bureaucracies, and then the reason why they want to continue to get more funding is because they need to continue to fund the bureaucracy. Like, it's not like the outcomes aren't really meeting the input. And so, like, this constant, you should always be editing what you do. And it's okay that sometimes you might need to cut staff or cut scope or cut a product line that was kind of making sense but really wasn't like scaling very well. And when the scaling is really about editing, cutting back a little bit, and then going 10 times faster after. And that's what I recommend to every founder I advise or invest in, or really like to myself. And I try to remind myself every day that that's my job.
Thank you for sharing. So we'll head straight to the Q&A section, and as promised earlier, we have 7 gifts to give away today, very kindly sponsored by our partners at Jumbo. So 2 Jumbo phones and 5 SafePal hard wallets. I'm just going to read from the Slido. So if you still have some questions, feel free to scan the QR code and put your question in. But the first question that we have is from G. Who's G? Like G full stop. I need to know who you are if I'm going to, okay, Glenn. Okay, so his question has the most votes. Is it necessary to conceal the term blockchain when promoting social good in order to avoid negative reaction from people? Anyone can just take this.
I can take this. I mean, I build a consumer product, so I sometimes say. And last week we spent a bunch of time talking to Congress, kind of about this topic. And one of the problems, crypto is very, like, relatively speaking, we think we're building like very, very big things, but we're very small, right? Like I can talk about the fact that there's like 700,000 wallets in the Helium ecosystem, or 1 million hotspots deployed all over the world. But that's really not a lot of people. Like, it's, as an asset class, we're very small, like in the grand scheme of things. But as a consumer product, like, not a lot of humans touch this stuff directly, and so it'll take time for some of the sort of the negative things that happen that are enabled by crypto as well, that are also enabled by the traditional financial system. Let's be very, very direct about it. Like, hopefully I'm not making anyone mad here, but like, yeah, HSBC was banking terrorists. Like, we all know this. This is a real thing, and this is like a core to to the financial system of the world. All these banks that already exist are doing this stuff too, and they're trying to be better at it too. I don't think they're all trying to be evil. It is enabled lots of things off chain as it has on chain as well. But it's an easy, like, kind of, I don't know, I guess like an ugly stepchild that you can like beat on or something. I don't know. It's just like really inappropriate, like that we it's very politically motivated in the U.S. I think, to be able to say, I'm building an anti-crypto army. This is like something that a politician in our country says. Like, what does that mean? Like, you don't care about personal sovereignty. You don't care about financial inclusion. You don't care about transparency, openness. Like, I mean, if I'm going to try to commit a crime, doing it on a blockchain is the worst place to do it. It's a public ledger. It's dumb. Like, there's so many easier ways to do that, I think. Like, use cash, I guess. I don't know. So, like, yes, sometimes we do have to, like, hide the fact. But there are other times where actually it makes sense to use it as the reason why this network exists. Like, the reason why Helium is able to offer this like really cheap phone plan is because of the network and because of the incentives and incentive alignment specifically. So in those cases, I put it right up top. I say it's possible because of your constituents. Like, I can go to a congressman and say, you have, a district, some of the smaller rural districts have like 10,000, 50,000 constituents. 500, 1,000, 2,000 of the people in your district are using this network directly. I know that for a fact. That's real impact, and it's because they are aligned with this network idea and this ideal of how to build networks. And so that's like, yes, sometimes you do have to hide it. Usually it's on the financial side. It's useful to also remind folks, and for even us to talk about, to spend more of our time talking about the non-financial use cases and the fact that it enables these kinds of networks. But I would say, no, don't always hide it. It's actually sometimes very useful to talk about it.
Okay, thank you, Bye. So, Glenn, just collect the gift later from Hui, okay? So, Melvin, can I see where Melvin is? Because Melvin's, oh, great, Melvin. Okay, so Melvin has asked this question, and I think maybe Helen can help with this. How do we identify, or how do you identify companies with good potential or projects with good potential in this space with multiple narratives, especially when majority of the projects are really just short-term hype? How do you differentiate, or how does your team differentiate between good potential companies or good potential projects versus those with short-term hype?
Yeah, I think from Bybit, like a listing perspective, the way we look at is, of course, the number of users from the social community. So we see what they are doing within their community, like how they treat maybe their community members. And then the moment if they launch the token, based on their track record, in the past, what they used to do, and then how much a commitment they give back to the community. So then we see a kind of a commitment upon building or sharing this profit with the community. So that we see a bit like a kind of a long term. So from BGA perspective, so I think the way we look at we differentiate project one from the other. I think mainly we look at the eyes of the founders. So when we talk with them, we see who is the most sincere, who mean it, or who is busy with presenting the slides. It gives us something, someone resonate with you and resonate with your value. So that is how we sponsor this BGA product. Of course, like just now I said, the concrete criteria is also the past record, like years, a number of users, success cases, etc.
Thank you for sharing, Helen. So those two people who have submitted the answers will get the jumbo phones, because we have 2 jumbo phones, and then we have 5 hardware wallets to give out to the next 5 questions that we pick. So the next one that I have on the list is by Mohammed Irfan. Mohammed, are you here? Mohammed? If you're not here, I'm not gonna ask a question because I can't give you the gift. Okay, probably left. So I'll skip, and Koei. Is Koei? Ah, Koei is here. Okay, great. Now, being a PhD, Koei has asked a very complicated question. Assuming, I'm actually picking the less complicated one, by the way. Assuming crypto will be a global coordination layer for trade, payment, and for good, how do we deal with the compliance pressure from different jurisdictions? How do we deal with the compliance pressure from different jurisdictions, assuming crypto will be a global coordination layer for trade, payment, and for good? John, you want to try and take this?
I actually invested in payment layers, right? Like, so I know Jet and Caleb really well, Stella, and I also invested in a company that acquired. I don't even know this. It was on I think it was announced like 2 years ago. So this company acquired Stella, Velo. Velo is owned by CP Group, the Thai conglomerate. I invested like 3 times, I think, over 3 times. So I'm a director in a company. I can't reveal too much, but it's exactly what you're saying. Regulation and compliance. Inshallah. I don't know the answer, bro. I'm working, when I remember I did a speech in Vietnam, and it was in front of the president or prime minister. And everybody was like a delegate, right? And there was like me and the moderator, and the moderator asked me one question. He asked me, is Singapore or Vietnam, which one is better? I was like, yeah. And I was sitting, and the president is there. So Vietnam is better. No, I didn't say that. I said that there's a lot of things that both countries can learn from each other. I think that's the most, I can't give up, right? I'm not afraid of a lot of things, but I'm afraid of a Vietnamese prison, so I don't go inside. And I was like, oh my God, I don't go inside. I better start working my brain, right? And start answering the right questions. I don't know how regulate. I've met up with, we are MAS regulated fund. I've done a lot of business on the regulation portion. I want to tell you the truth, a lot of them don't know what's going on as well. I've met with regulators who met with Do Kwon and said that Do Kwon's coin is great before they crash. So you tell me. I think we cross that bridge when we get there. You know, the moment you become too big to fail, in some sense, maybe they will ease the way for you. Maybe they will ease everything. Maybe they say, you know what? You know, in the past, remember Uber and now it's Grab, right? So now Grab is making headways in Singapore, in Asia. It's great. And in the past, when I started this company, it's a me guide you, by the way. So I think it's gone. It was a way as a gig worker for tourism. So I started that in 2013. I was sent loyal letters all over the world. They were all trying to sue me because I was disrupting the market. And I got scared. I don't have that much. I mean, I don't know if my parents will support me in this, but I didn't. I got really also scared, and I just stopped my business. But they took my business. Singapore government took my. We collaborated on a less damaging project. I wish I was in blockchain and back then and doing all these things that could change and do a lot of crazy stuff, but I wasn't. So really hard for me to answer. Thank
Maybe
you.
something I can answer you, Kowi, on top of this. Actually, I don't think it is that scary because actually, firstly, I think as a very healthy ecosystem from a crypto exchange, we have the on-ramp and off-ramp services. And the service providers are all licensed. Means today, for example, from Vietnam, you deposit, you're done, right? Into it from the fiat, and then you change into crypto, and then you start trading, and then eventually you withdraw. You can choose to withdraw the fiat down. You can also withdraw the crypto. Similarly to the donation, it's the same. The other side, they can provide you the wallet address, okay, and then you forward to them. So the moment, of course, a lot of them is a big amount. We are talking about donation amount. Big amount, I think people choose maybe a centralized exchange. So so there is a KYC as well. So which means the moment you receive this amount, you are about to withdraw that big amount out of your wallet. Actually, you need to complete a KYC. So I think there are a lot of solutions, and all these providers has been licensed. So back to Bybit, actually, so there are many regions globally. We are operating in 176 regions, and some region is particularly strong with the regulation, like UAE. So we are licensed, which means in UAE, we can directly connect with the bank. So the bank work with us, maybe they are not as fast as crypto, but still 24 hours a day. So then you can deposit AED, you can withdraw AED. So that is one. And EU is a very big region. They start to have one license, it's called MiCA. So a lot of companies are applying for it, similar to Bybit. So there are always some other region, I think they are not as developed as the other regions in the scope of regulations, which is totally fine. So I think, for example, some country, if we may name, I think like Japan can be a case. So Japan is a country, they have regulation, but they don't enforce. It's a guidance. So in that case, then I think if for the customers like Bybit, if you want to deposit, you want to withdraw, still you finish KYC, but we don't have the license to connect with the bank. In that case, we connect with the third party. So the third party should have a license first. They registered with the government, and then they can offer such a service to an exchange like us. So I think in summary, I will say there are a lot of controls from this on-ramp and then off-ramp perspective. We will definitely make sure all these donation, firstly the security, and second to avoid all the AML, all these KYC check. So that is fundamental.
Thank you.
I'd add one more thing actually, which is like educating regulators is our job as builders in this ecosystem, right? Like they are not, the regulators are they're going to respond to their constituents. Like the only reason why regulators do what they're doing is because they're responding to something that's happening in their constituent base. And you know, sometimes, and then we're actually seeing this a lot in AI. There's this bill that's going through California right now that might kind of overly regulate AI innovation in California, and companies are doing everything from leaving California for it, like Twitter is doing that, or X, I guess, is doing that, and then you know, all the way to, you know, some of us are just standing around and we're ready to fight for it, right? You know, any kind of innovation, it is not surprising when a regulator wants to overreach, but usually it comes from a place of lack of education, not necessarily malice. I always assume the best in people, typically. And I think the thing that we can do is we can educate. And so that's what we do. We go to you know, the state legislators, we go to policymakers in DC, we work with policymakers around the world, and you can get very successful. There was no standard for LoRaWAN, which is the IoT protocol that we use in Africa, and so we went to the ATU and we proposed one, and they said, that's great, go for it, go build it. And that's the way that you can work with the regulator to actually get, you know, business done. So I think it's really just an opportunity that we should take.
Okay, thank you for sharing, my friend. Now, in the interest of time, but also promising to give away all the prizes from our sponsors, what I'll do is I will not address the other questions, but I will name the people who have asked questions that we would have picked if given more time, so that the team can distribute the prizes. So we have G and Melvin for the jumbo phones. We have Koei. We have John, G, Sue from Phison. Are you here? Sue from Phison? Sue from Phison as well. Then Somnia from Nodo. Yep. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 more. Casey's right there, okay. And Ricky, are you here? Ricky's not here. Gary? Yeah, and Gary. Okay, so that makes up all the prizes. And I would like to, of course, thank the panelists for participating in today's very, very interesting, but very new, but huge emerging space in blockchain, harnessing blockchain for social good. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Now, once more, a round of applause to our amazing panelists. And of course, you guys as well for asking all of the topics and questions perhaps, you know, it's difficult to ask in real life. And our